I took the job because my student loans had entered the phase where collection agencies leave voicemails that sound like threats wrapped in legal disclaimers. The ad said, remote security, astronomy facility, housing included, 40 hours 200 month. I clicked apply before I finished reading the requirements. The drive from Albuquerque took 6 hours. The highway gave way to state routes, then county roads, then a private access road marked only by a weathered sign reading Keller Array, authorized personnel only. The desert here looked different from the postcards. No saguaros, no red rocks, just scrub, pale dirt, and distance. The sky was massive in a way that made my chest feel hollow. The facility appeared as a cluster of white buildings beside 17 dish antennas arranged in a precise arc. Each dish was 25 meters across, pointed at different sections of sky. They moved sometimes, tracking signals I would never hear. The main compound consisted of a control building, 2 residence modules, a generator shed, and a supply depot. Everything was connected by gravel paths marked with reflective paint that glowed faintly in my headlights. I parked beside a dusty pickup truck near the admin entrance. The air smelled like dust and ozone. It was October, but the afternoon heat still pushed 90 degrees. By nightfall, it would drop to 45. A woman named Torres met me at the door. She was maybe 50, with sun-damaged skin and gray hair pulled into a tight bun. She wore a khaki uniform with a patch that read Site Security Supervisor. "You're Mercer," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, ma'am." "You read the contract?" "Yes, ma'am." "The whole thing?" I had skimmed it. 12 pages of dense legal language, non-disclosure agreements, liability waivers. The salary section was clear enough. "Yes." She studied me for 3 seconds. "Come inside." The control building was climate-controlled and dim. Banks of equipment hummed along one wall. 3 workstations faced wall-mounted monitors displaying signal waveforms and spectrum analyses. A large window overlooked the dish array. The sun was lowering, painting everything amber. Torres led me to a break room with a table, mini fridge, microwave, and coffee maker. She gestured to a chair. I sat. She remained standing. "You'll work 7 nights, midnight to 8 a.m., then have 7 nights off. You'll stay in Module B during your rotation. Your partner is named Kessler. He works the other rotation. You'll overlap 1 hour at shift change for handoff, never longer than 1 hour. Understood. You have a radio, a flashlight, a logbook, and a key ring. The key ring has 12 keys. You'll learn what each one opens. You'll do 3 patrols per shift at specific times. You'll monitor 4 cameras. You'll respond to alarms. Most importantly, you'll follow the rules I'm about to give you." "What kind of alarms?" "Motion sensors, door contacts, environmental monitors. Mostly false positives from wind or wildlife. Sometimes equipment faults. Once in a while, something else." "Something else?" Torres pulled a laminated card from her pocket and set it on the table. "These are your operational guidelines. Read them now. I'll wait." The card was printed in small, precise font. No logo, no header. Just a numbered list. 1. Begin your shift at midnight exactly. Set your watch to the control room clock. Do not begin early. 2. At 12:14 a.m., check all exterior door seals. The control room, both residence modules, the generator shed, and the supply depot. Each door should show green on the contact panel. If any shows red, report it immediately on Channel 6. 3. Between 12:30 and 12:45 a.m., walk the perimeter path clockwise. Stay on the gravel. Count your steps. The full circuit is exactly 2,173 steps. If you count more or fewer, walk it again. 4. Do not approach dish 11. If you see movement near dish 11, note the time in your log and continue your patrol. 5. At 2:18 a.m., check all interior doors. The control room, break room, bathroom, server room, and storage closet. They should all be closed. If any door is open, close it. Do not look inside before closing. 6. If you hear knocking between 2:30 and 3:15 a.m., do not answer. Do not open any door. Do not look through windows. Remain in the control room with the curtains drawn until 3:15. 7. At 3:15 a.m. exactly, perform your second perimeter walk. Same protocol as the first. Count steps. Stay on gravel. 8. Between 4 and 4:30 a.m., you may take a break in the break room. Do not use the bathroom in Module A. Use only the bathroom in the control building. 9. If the lights in Dish 11's maintenance shed turn on, note the time and duration. Do not investigate. The lights will turn off on their own. 10. At 5:45 a.m., perform your third perimeter walk. Count steps. If you encounter anyone else on the path, do not speak. Continue walking. They will move aside. 11. Monitor Channel 6 continuously. If you hear your name, respond only with your badge number and the current time. Do not use your name in your response. 12. If you see a figure in a blue uniform between the dishes, it is not Kessler. Kessler wears gray. Do not approach figures in blue uniforms. Note their position and continue your work. 13. At 6:30 a.m., begin your end-of-shift report. Document all anomalies, alarm events, and maintenance issues. Be precise with times. 14. Remain at your post until Kessler arrives at 7:45 a.m. Handoff lasts exactly 15 minutes. Leave Module B no later than 8:15 a.m. I read the list 3 times. Torres watched me. Questions? She asked. What's at Dish 11? Nothing that concerns you. Why can't I walk the perimeter early or late? Because those are the times when it's safe. Safe from what? Torres picked up the laminated card. From violating protocol and losing this job. You want the job, you follow the rules. You want to understand the rules. You can think about it on your own time, but you follow them regardless. I thought about my visa balance. I understand. Good. Your first shift is tonight. Kessler's waiting to show you the equipment. After handoff, you're on your own. She led me through a side door to Module B. It was a prefab unit with a bedroom, kitchenette, bathroom, and sitting area. Clean but Spartan. A window faced east toward the dishes. The glass had a faint bronze tint. Everything you need is here. Food in the pantry, fresh linens weekly, satellite internet, but it's slow. No visitors during your rotation, no exceptions. What if someone shows up? Follow Rule 12, Torres said, then she left. I spent the afternoon unpacking and trying to nap. Sleep wouldn't come. The silence was too complete. No traffic, no voices, no sirens. Just wind and the occasional mechanical whir from the dishes adjusting position. At 11:30 p.m., I walked to the control building. Kessler was waiting. He was younger than I expected, maybe 30, with a runner's build and tired eyes. He wore a gray uniform with a name tape and a badge that read K7739. You're the new guy, he said. Musa. Badge number? I checked the ID Torres had given me. M4402. Good. Don't forget it. You'll need it for radio checks. He gestured to a workstation. This is your station. 4 camera feeds here. Perimeter, generator shed, supply depot, and Module A courtyard. The feeds are black and white. They refresh every 3 seconds. Don't stare at them continuously. You'll see things that aren't there. Like what? Shadows moving between frames. Animals that aren't animals. Just check them every 10 minutes or so. If you see something real, an actual person, vehicle, something actively wrong, that's when you pay attention. He showed me the radio. Motorola 2-way, channel 6 preset, battery indicator on the side. Keep this clipped to your belt, always. If it dies during your shift, there's a backup in the charging dock. Swap immediately. Who else is on channel 6? Me during my shifts. Torres during the day. Dispatch in Albuquerque, but they rarely call. If you hear chatter that isn't from one of us, ignore it. Ignore it? Unless they use proper badge numbers and timestamps, it's not real traffic. Could be interference from the dishes, could be something else. Just ignore it. He walked me through the alarm panel. 22 zones, door contacts, motion sensors, glass break detectors. Most of these will stay green. If one goes red, check the camera first. If you can't identify the cause remotely, you'll need to investigate in person. Take the flashlight, stay on paths. And if I find something? Report it on Channel 6, then log it. Be specific. Times, locations, descriptions. Torres reads every log. Kessler checked his watch. 11:55. I'm officially off. You're officially on. Set your watch. I synchronized with the control room clock. Midnight approached. One more thing, Kessler said. If you think you see me outside during your shift, check the time. If it's not between 7:45 and 8 a.m., it's not me. What is it? I don't know. I've never asked. He picked up a duffel bag from beside the door. Good luck. He left. The door sealed behind him with a soft click. I was alone. The control room lights hummed. The monitors displayed their steady data streams. Through the window, the dish array stood silent against the stars. The Milky Way was a bright smear across the entire sky. I'd never seen it like that. At midnight exactly, my watch beeped. I pulled out the laminated card and read Rule 1 again. Begin your shift at midnight exactly. I was already at my station. That was done. At 12:14, I approached the alarm panel. All zones showed green. According to Rule 2, I needed to verify door seals. The panel confirmed them, but something in the phrasing made me think I should physically check. I decided to trust the panel for tonight. I would ask Kessler about it tomorrow. My first perimeter walk was at 12:30. I had 15 minutes. I used the time to explore the control room more carefully. The bathroom was small, clean, with a lock that worked. The supply closet held spare equipment, batteries, toilet paper, paper towels. The server room door was locked. I checked my key ring. The 5th key was labeled server. I didn't go in. At 12:28, I put on my jacket and picked up the heavy mag light from the charging dock. I clipped the radio to my belt and opened the exterior door. The cold hit immediately. Temperature had dropped 40 degrees since sunset. My breath condensed. The gravel path was clearly marked, a pale ribbon circling the compound. Reflective paint dotted the edges every 10 feet. I started walking clockwise, counting steps. The crunch of gravel was loud in the stillness. Above me, the dishes loomed like frozen giants. Some faced east, some west, some nearly straight up. I didn't understand the pattern. At step 312, I passed near dish 11. It looked identical to the others. White metal framework, parabolic surface, a small maintenance shed at its base. The shed was dark. I kept walking, counting. At step 904, something moved in my peripheral vision. I stopped, turned my head slowly. A coyote stood 30 yards off the path, watching me. Its eyes reflected green in my flashlight beam. It didn't run. I remembered Rule 4. Do not approach dish 11. The rule said nothing about animals. I continued walking. The coyote didn't follow. At step 2173, I completed the circuit and returned to the control room door. I checked my watch. 12:44. Exactly 14 minutes. The count was correct. Inside, I logged the patrol. 030:0044, perimeter walk 1, count verified 2073, coyote observed near dish 17, no other anomalies. I checked the cameras. All 4 feeds showed empty frames. I poured coffee from the pot Kessler had left and sat at my station. The next hour passed slowly. I monitored cameras, checked the alarm panel, and watched the signal displays. Radio signals from space, I assumed. Pulsars, quasars, distant galaxies. I knew nothing about astronomy. At 2:18, I did my interior door check. Control room door, break room door, bathroom door, server room door, supply closet door, all closed. The storage closet was slightly ajar. I closed it without looking inside as instructed. At 2:31, something knocked on the exterior door. 3 sharp raps, deliberate, human. I froze. Rule 6 was explicit. If you hear knocking between 2:30 and 3:15 a.m., do not answer. I checked my watch. 2:31. I was inside the window. Another 3 knocks, louder. I stood and walked to the window. The curtains were open. Rule 6 said to draw them. I reached for the cord. Before I pulled it, I saw a figure standing beside the door. It wore a gray uniform. It looked like Kessler, but Kessler had left 12 hours ago and wouldn't return until 7:45 a.m. I drew the curtains quickly. My hands shook. I sat back at my station and stared at the alarm panel. All zones green. The door hadn't opened. The knocking continued. 3 raps. Pause. 3 raps. Pause. Steady as a metronome. I pulled out the radio. Kessler had said to ignore chatter that wasn't verified. He hadn't said what to do about knocking. I clipped the radio back to my belt and waited. At 3:15 exactly, the knocking stopped. I waited 5 more minutes, then opened the curtains. The area outside the door was empty. I checked the camera feed for that zone. Nothing. I logged it. 02-31-03-15. Knocking on control room exterior door. Did not investigate per Rule 6. No visual confirmation of source. Ended at 03:15. My second perimeter walk began at 3:15. I bundled up and stepped outside. The cold was sharper now. Temperature had dropped further. I walked clockwise, counting steps. At step 418, I noticed boot prints in the dust beside the gravel path. They paralleled my route, staying 2 feet off the gravel. Fresh prints. I could see the tread pattern. I kept walking and counting. The prints continued for another 600 steps, then veered away toward dish 11 and disappeared. At step 2173, I finished the circuit. 14 minutes again. Count verified. Inside, I logged the prints. Torres had said to be precise. 0315, 0329, perimeter walk 2, count verified 2173, fresh boot prints observed parallel to path from approximately step 4 and 18 to step 1024, prints veered toward dish 11, size estimated 10 or 11. I took my break at 4. The break room was warmer than the control room. I ate a granola bar and drank more coffee. Rule 8 said I could break between 4 and 4:30, and that I should use the bathroom in the control building, not Module A. Module A wasn't mine anyway. That was where Kessler probably stayed during his rotation. At 4:08, I heard footsteps outside the break room, distinct, measured, coming from the hallway. But the control building was small. There was no hallway. Just the control room, break room, bathroom, server room, and closet. I stood slowly and opened the break room door. The control room was empty. The bathroom door was closed. The other doors were closed. The footsteps had stopped. I checked the alarm panel, all green. I returned to my station and watched the cameras until 4:30. Nothing. At 5:45, I performed my third perimeter walk. The sky had started to lighten in the east. Stars faded. The dishes were silhouettes. I counted steps. At step 790, I saw movement ahead on the path. A figure walking toward me. As we closed distance, details emerged. Male, average height, wearing a blue uniform. Rule 12. If you see a figure in a blue uniform between the dishes, it is not Kessler. Do not approach. But the figure was on the path. I was on the path. We would meet. At step 912, we were 20 feet apart. The figure stopped. I stopped. In the pre-dawn dimness, I couldn't see a face. Just the blue uniform, dark against dark. The figure stepped off the path, onto the dirt. It stood there, motionless. I continued walking. At step 921, I passed the figure. It was 5 feet to my left. I didn't turn my head. I counted to 2,173 and finished the circuit. Inside, I logged it. 0545 4559, perimeter walk 3, count verified 2,173, encountered figure in blue uniform at approximately step 912, figure yielded path as per rule 12, no interaction. At 6:30, I began my end-of-shift report. I compiled all log entries, noted alarm status, checked camera recordings. Everything went into a summary document that I saved to the shared drive. At 7:45, Kessler arrived. He looked exactly as he had 12 hours ago. Gray uniform, tired eyes, duffel bag. "How was it?" he asked. "Quiet," I said. "Then, I had some anomalies." "Anything that violated protocol?" "No, I followed the rules." "Then it was a good shift. Show me your log." I pulled up the document. Kessler read it carefully, nodding at each entry. "The knocking is normal," he said. "Happens 2 or 3 times a week. The boot prints are normal. The figure in blue is normal. You did everything right." "What are they?" "Doesn't matter. What matters is you followed procedure and nothing escalated." He checked his watch. 7:58. "You've got 17 minutes. Go sleep." I walked back to Module B in the growing light. My legs ached. My eyes burned. I fell onto the bed without undressing and slept until 3 p.m. The pattern repeated for 6 more nights. Each shift brought variations. Some nights the knocking lasted the full 45 minutes. Some nights it was only 10. Twice I heard my name called from outside, once at 1:37 a.m. and once at 4:51 a.m. I didn't respond. I didn't even acknowledge it in my log. On my 4th night, Dish 11's maintenance shed lights turned on at 2:43 a.m. They stayed on for 11 minutes. I watched from the control room window. Nothing moved near the shed. At 2:54, the lights turned off. On my 6th night during my first perimeter walk, I counted 2,189 steps, 16 more than the correct count. I walked the circuit again immediately, counting carefully. 2,173. Exact. On my 7th night, I encountered the figure in blue twice. Once during my 2nd walk, once during my 3rd. Both times it yielded the path. Both times I didn't look at it directly. At the end of my 7th shift, Torres met me in the control room instead of Kessler. "Your first rotation is complete," she said. "You did well." "Thank you." "Kessler says you didn't ask unnecessary questions. That's good. Questions lead to speculation. Speculation leads to mistakes." "I understand." "Go home. Come back in 7 days. Your schedule is 12 weeks on, 1 week fully off. The week off is paid." I drove back to Albuquerque and spent 7 days trying to explain the job to friends. I told them I was a security guard at a research facility. They asked what I secured. I said equipment and data. They asked if it was boring. I said yes. I didn't mention the rules. When I returned for my 2nd rotation, Kessler looked thinner. His eyes had a hollowness I hadn't noticed before. "Welcome back," he said. "Torres left you a note." He handed me a folded paper. I opened it. Amended protocols. Effective immediately. 15. Between 1:15 and 1:45 a.m., do not look directly at Dish 11. If you must face that direction, keep your gaze at ground level. 16. If you find a handwritten note anywhere in the control building or Module B, do not read it. Burn it in the metal trash can in the break room. 17. During perimeter walks, if you see a light source moving between the dishes, stop walking. Count to 60. If the light is still moving after 60 seconds, continue walking. If it has stopped, return to the control room immediately. 18. Do not adjust the thermostat in the control room below 65 or above 72 degrees. The current setting is optimal. 19. If you hear music playing from the supply depot, note the time and genre. Do not investigate. The music will stop within 10 minutes. 20. Between 3:20 and 3:40 a.m., stay inside the control room. Do not look out windows. Do not open doors. 21. At 5 a.m. exactly, check the server room door. If it is unlocked, lock it with key 5. If it is already locked, verify and move on. 22. If you see a vehicle approaching on the access road during your shift, report it on Channel 6 immediately. Do not wait to identify the vehicle. 23. Do not use the microwave in the break room between midnight and 6 a.m. Use only the coffee maker and sink. 24. If your radio emits a tone followed by silence, respond with your badge number and the word clear. Do not add anything else. I read the list twice. Why the amendments? Kessler was already packing his duffel. Someone made mistakes. Someone else paid for them. These clarify boundaries. What kind of mistakes? The kind where you think you understand the pattern and can safely deviate. Don't do that. He checked his watch. 7:56, I'm out. He left before I could ask more. My first shift of the second rotation felt heavier. The rules list had grown from 14 to 24. I laminated the new amendments and kept both cards in my pocket. At 12:14, I verified door seals, all green. At 12:30, I began my first perimeter walk. The night was colder than usual. Temperature had dropped to 31 degrees. My breath hung in the air. The stars were hard points. At step 506, I saw a light moving between dish 4 and dish 5. It was pale blue, maybe 100 yards away, drifting laterally at walking speed. Rule 17. Stop walking, count to 60. I stopped. The gravel crunched under my final step, then silence. I counted silently, watching the light. At 28 seconds, the light stopped moving. At 60 seconds, it was still stationary. Rule 17 said to return to the control room immediately if the light stopped. I turned and walked back the way I'd come, counting steps in reverse. At step -506, I reached the control room door. I went inside, logged the event, and waited. At 1:15, my radio emitted a tone. Sharp, electronic, lasting 3 seconds. Then silence. Rule 24. Respond with badge number and the word clear. I keyed the radio. M4402 clear. Silence. Then Kessler's voice, distant and static-laced. Acknowledged. But Kessler was off shift. He was home, 7 hours away in Albuquerque. I didn't respond further. Rule 24 said not to add anything else. At 1:46, I resumed my perimeter walk from the beginning. This time I completed it without incident. 2,173 steps. At 2:41, the lights at Dish 11's shed turned on. I noted the time. They turned off at 2:49. 8 minutes. At 3:20, I followed Rule 20. I stayed inside the control room, curtains drawn, doors closed. I sat at my station and monitored the alarm panel. At 3:27, Zone 14 went red, the supply depot's motion sensor. I checked the camera feed. The image was black and white, refreshing every 3 seconds. First frame, empty. Second frame, empty. Third frame, a figure standing in front of the supply depot door. Fourth frame, empty. Zone 14 returned to green at 3:32. At 3:40, the window lifted. I opened the curtains and resumed normal monitoring. At 5 a.m., I checked the server room door. It was locked. I verified with key 5 and moved on. My third perimeter walk at 5:45 was uneventful. 2,173 steps. No figures, no lights, no anomalies. Kessler arrived at 7:45. I briefed him on the light, the radio tone, and the supply depot motion. "Standard," he said. "You responded correctly." "Was that you on the radio?" "No." "Then who?" "Doesn't matter. You followed protocol. That's what matters." I wanted to press, but his expression made it clear the conversation was over. During my 7 days off, I tried to research the Keller array. I found almost nothing. No Wikipedia entry, no news articles, no academic papers. The only mention was a brief note in a 2003 NSF funding document describing it as a specialized radio astronomy facility conducting classified atmospheric research. The details were redacted. I called Torres from my apartment. I have a question about the facility history. Is it relevant to your duties? No. Then I can't help you. I'm just curious what... Curiosity isn't encouraged, Mercer. You're paid to follow protocols, not to understand them. If that's a problem, you can terminate your contract. I thought about my shrinking debt. It's not a problem. Good. She hung up. I returned for my third rotation. Kessler looked worse. He'd lost weight. His hands trembled slightly when he handed me the radio. You okay? I asked. Fine, just tired. You should take time off. Can't. No one else is qualified. He checked his watch. 7:58. You're on. That night, at 12:34, during my first perimeter walk, I found a handwritten note on the ground near dish 8. It was folded, tucked under a small rock. The paper was clean, recent. Rule 16, do not read it. Burn it in the metal trash can. I picked up the note without unfolding it, continued my walk, and burned it in the break room at 4:15 a.m. The paper curled and blackened. I stirred the ashes with a pen until nothing remained but gray powder. On my third night of the third rotation, I heard music from the supply depot at 2:37 a.m. classical, string quartet. It was faint but clear. I noted the time and genre in my log. The music stopped at 2:45. 8 minutes. On my fifth night, during my second perimeter walk, I encountered the figure in blue at step 1421. It stood in the center of the path, facing me. Rule 12 said the figure would yield. Rule 10 said if I encountered anyone on the path, I should continue walking and they would move aside. I kept walking. At step 1450, I was 10 feet away. The figure hadn't moved. At step 1455, I was 5 feet away. The figure stepped aside. I continued. At step 1459, I passed it. The figure was 2 feet to my right. I kept my gaze forward. At step 2173, I completed the circuit. On my seventh night, at 4:33 a.m., I heard footsteps on the roof of the control building. Slow, deliberate, pacing from one end to the other. They lasted until 4:41. I logged it, though no rule specifically addressed roof sounds. At shift change, I mentioned it to Kessler. That's new, he said. Is it a problem? Only if it happens during restricted windows. 4:33 is outside all the restricted periods, so it's just an anomaly. Log it and move on. Should I tell Torres? Your logs go to her automatically. If she's concerned, she'll add a rule. She didn't. No new amendments came. My fourth rotation began in early December. The desert was colder. Nighttime temperatures dropped into the 20s. I wore thermals under my uniform. On my second night, at 2:12 a.m., I received a radio transmission. M4402, this is K7739. Do you copy? Kessler's voice, his badge number, but Kessler was off shift. I thought about the radio tone from my second rotation, the voice that had claimed to be Kessler but probably wasn't. The rules didn't explicitly cover this scenario. Rule 11 said to respond to my name only with my badge number and time. Rule 24 covered tones. But this was a direct call with correct badge formatting. I keyed the radio. This is M4402, copy, authenticate, silence. K7739, authenticate with current date and shift time. More silence. Then the transmission ended with a soft click. I logged it. Torres would decide if it needed a rule. On my fourth night at 3:28 a.m. during the restricted window, I heard a knock on the control room door. Not the exterior door, the interior door to the break room. Rule 6 covered exterior knocking. Rule 20 covered the 3:20 to 3:40 window. I stayed at my station, curtains drawn, monitoring the alarm panel. The knocking continued for 6 minutes, steady, insistent. At 3:34, it stopped. On my sixth night, I found another note. This one was tucked into the doorframe of Module B when I returned after shift. I didn't open it. I took it to the control room during my next shift and burned it at 4:21 a.m. On my seventh night, Kessler was late. At 7:45, he didn't arrive. At 7:50, still nothing. At 8, I was officially overtime. I radioed Torres. This is M4402. K7739 has not arrived for shift change. Please advise. Static. Then Torres's voice. Acknowledged. Remain at post. Kessler is delayed. Expect him within 30 minutes. Copy. At 8:17, Kessler stumbled through the door. His uniform was dirty. His face was pale. He was breathing hard. Are you okay? I asked. Fine. Traffic. He dropped his duffel bag and leaned against the wall. There's no traffic out here. Flat tire. Had to change it. He checked his watch. 8:18. Sorry. You're clear to go. You sure you're... I'm fine. Go. I left. Something was wrong, but I didn't know what to do about it. During my week off, I called the facility to check on Kessler. Torres answered. He's on medical leave, she said. What happened? That's confidential. Is he coming back? That's also confidential. If you have concerns about your own duties, I can address those. No concerns. Then have a good week off. When I returned for my 5th rotation, a new guard met me at the control room. His name was Paulson. He was maybe 25, with nervous energy and too many questions. You're Mercer, right? M4402. I'm Paulson, P6881. This is my first rotation at a secure site. I've done mall security and event staff, but nothing like this. Torres said you've been here a few months, so you know the protocols. Can you walk me through the camera system and the alarm zones? And what's the deal with the dishes? Are they actually doing astronomy, or is that a cover for something else? Have you read the rules? I asked. Yeah, but some of them don't make sense. Like, why can't I approach dish 11? Is there radiation or something? And why is there a specific time window for the perimeter walk? Can't I just walk whenever I need to patrol? I stared at him. Follow the rules exactly as written. Don't improvise. Don't ask why. Just comply. Okay, but... No. Listen. People who don't follow the rules don't stay here. Some of them don't stay anywhere. You follow every rule, every shift, every time. Understood? His smile faded. Understood. I showed him the equipment. Radios, cameras, alarm panel, flashlight, key ring. I walked him through a sample perimeter patrol during daylight so he could see the path and count steps with me. 2,173. At 7:45 I left. Paulson looked less confident than when we'd started. That night, off shift and in my apartment in Albuquerque, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Kessler's pale face, his labored breathing. I thought about Paulson's endless questions. At 2:37 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Torres. Paulson violated protocol at 02:19. He is no longer on site. You are being asked to cover his shift tonight in addition to your own premium overtime rate. Respond if available. I texted back. Available. Arriving by 23. Cool. I drove through the night. The highway was empty. I reached the facility at 10:51 p.m. Torres met me at the control room. Paulson opened a door during a restricted window. He's been removed. Removed? He's no longer employed here. That's all you need to know. Is he okay? He violated protocol. The consequences are not your concern. She handed me a new laminated card. Additional amendments, effective immediately. I read the new rules. 25. Do not open any interior door during the 3:20 to 3:40 a.m. window. This includes bathroom doors, closet doors, and the break room door. If you need facilities, use them before 3:20 or after 3:40. 26. If you see a second figure in gray uniform during your shift, verify by radio before acknowledging. Request badge number and shift time. If they cannot provide both, treat them as a blue uniform figure per Rule 12. 27. At 1:55 a.m., verify that all windows in the control room are closed and latched. If any window is open, close and latch it immediately. 28. Do not write anything on paper during your shift except in the official logbook. Do not bring personal notebooks or notepads. 29. If you find an object that was not present during your previous perimeter walk, do not touch it. Note its location in your log and continue your patrol. 30. The server room temperature must remain between 58 and 62 degrees. If the temperature monitor shows any other reading, report it immediately on Channel 6. 6 more rules, I said. The environment is dynamic. Protocols adapt. What happened to Kessler? Torres studied me. He's recovering. He'll be back when he's cleared. Recovering from what? From failing to follow an amended protocol. He thought he understood the pattern. He was wrong. She left. I began my shift at midnight. The control room felt different, emptier, colder, despite the thermostat reading 70 degrees. At 12:14, I verified door seals. All green. At 12:30, I began my first perimeter walk. The night was clear. The stars were sharp. At step 803, I saw an object on the path ahead, a flashlight, identical to the mag light I was carrying. Rule 29. Do not touch it. Note location and continue. I walked around the flashlight, giving it a 3-foot clearance. At step 2173, I completed the circuit and logged it. 030-44, perimeter walk 1, count verified 2173, flashlight observed on path at approximately step 803, not touched per rule 29. At 1:55, I checked the windows, all closed and latched. At 2:18, I checked interior doors, all closed. The server room door was locked. At 2:37, knocking began. Exterior door, 3 raps, pause, 3 raps. It continued until 3:15. At 3:15, I began my second perimeter walk. The flashlight was gone. At step 1190, I encountered the figure in blue. It yielded. I continued. At step 2173, I completed the circuit. At 3:20, I locked myself in the control room and drew the curtains. At 3:31, Zone 8 went red. Dish 11 area. I checked the camera feed. Black screen. The camera was offline. Zone 8 returned to green at 3:38. At 3:40, I opened the curtains. The camera feed for Zone 8 resumed normal operation. At 5 a.m., I checked the server room door. Locked. Temperature monitor read 59 degrees. Acceptable range. At 5:45, I performed my third perimeter walk. 2,173 steps. No anomalies. At 6:30, I began my end-of-shift report. At 7:45, Torres arrived instead of a relief guard. You'll be working doubles until we find a replacement for Paulson, she said. Midnight to 4 p.m., 7 days. Enhanced pay. 4 p.m.? Day shift is monitoring and maintenance only. Less strict protocols. You'll rest from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m., then back on. For how long? Until we hire and train someone new. Could be 2 weeks, could be 6. I thought about the math. If I worked doubles for even 2 weeks, I could pay off my visa completely. I'll do it. Good. Your first double starts tonight. The next 6 weeks blurred together. I slept in fractured chunks. 4 hours after day shift, 6 hours after night shift if I was lucky. I lost weight. My hands developed a tremor. The anomalies continued. Knocking, figures, lights, music. I logged everything. I followed every rule. On my third week of doubles during a night shift at 2:44 a.m., my radio emitted 3 rapid tones followed by a voice. All stations, this is command. Initiate emergency protocol echo, acknowledged by badge number. This wasn't in any rule I'd been given. I grabbed the laminated cards and scanned them. Nothing about emergency protocol echo. I keyed the radio. This is M4402. I have no protocol designated echo. Please clarify. Silence. Then Torres's voice, calm and clear. M4402. Disregard previous transmission. That was not command. You are correct to verify. Continue normal operations. Copy. And Mercer, good instinct. The transmission ended. I logged it. Oro 244. Received false emergency transmission on Channel 6. Verified with Torres. Disregarded per her instruction. On my 5th week, I found a handwritten note during my first perimeter walk. It was at step 1812, weighted with a stone. I picked it up without reading it and burned it at 4:23 a.m. On my 6th week, during my second perimeter walk at 3:17 a.m., I counted 2,197 steps, 24 more than correct. I immediately walked the circuit again. 2,173. Exact. On my last night of doubles at 1:23 a.m., I saw a figure in gray uniform through the control room window. It was standing beside dish 15, facing the control building. Rule 26. Verify by radio before acknowledging. I keyed the radio. Unknown gray uniform figure. Identify with badge number and shift time. Silence. Repeat. Gray uniform figure near dish 15. Provide badge number and shift time for verification. No response. I treated it as a blue uniform figure per Rule 12. I noted its position and continued my work. At 7:45 a.m., Torres arrived with a new guard. His name was Chen. He was older, maybe 45, with a military bearing and 0 unnecessary questions. Chen is your new partner, Torres said. He's experienced with secure sites. You're back to single shifts starting tonight. Understood. Torres handed me an envelope. 6 weeks of enhanced pay plus a bonus for reliability. Take your week off. You've earned it. I drove home and slept for 16 hours. When I returned for my 6th rotation, Chen was professional and efficient. His logs were precise. His radio discipline was perfect. We barely spoke during handoffs, which was ideal. The rules continued to expand. By my 8th rotation, the list had grown to 37 items. By my 10th rotation, 42. Some new rules were specific to incidents I'd logged. Others addressed scenarios I'd never encountered. 31. Between 4:50 and 5:10 a.m., do not use the radio unless reporting an emergency. Routine traffic should wait until 5:10. 32. If you see your own reflection behaving differently than your movements, look away immediately and do not look at any reflective surface for the remainder of your shift. 33. Do not count steps aloud during perimeter walks. Count silently only. 34. If you find a door that you do not have a key for, do not attempt to open it. Report it to Torres during day shift. 35. At midnight exactly, stand at your station for 30 seconds before beginning any other tasks. I followed every rule. My logs were immaculate. My compliance was perfect. On my 12th rotation during my 7th night, I was performing my 3rd perimeter walk when I encountered Chen on the path. It was 5:52 a.m. Chen's shift started at midnight of the following day. He shouldn't be here. Rule 10. If I encountered anyone on the path, I should continue walking and they would move aside. Rule 26. Verify gray uniform figures by radio. Chen was in my path walking toward me. I keyed my radio. This is M4402, requesting verification from gray uniform figure approaching on perimeter path. Provide badge number and shift time. The figure stopped. It didn't respond. I repeated the request. Gray uniform figure, provide badge number and shift time. Chen's voice came through the radio, but the figure's mouth didn't move. C5194, shift time is midnight to 8 a.m., but Chen's shift didn't start until tomorrow. Today he was off rotation. I stopped walking. Verify current date, December 19th. Today was December 19th, but Chen shouldn't be on site during his off rotation. Verify your location. On perimeter path, approaching from the west, the figure was 30 feet away now. It hadn't moved since stopping. Chen, if that's you, step off the path per protocol. The figure stepped off the path onto the dirt. I continued walking. As I passed, I glanced at it. The face was Chen's face. The uniform was perfect. The badge read C5194. But something was wrong. The chest didn't rise and fall. There was no breath vapor in the cold air. I completed my walk. 2,173 steps. At shift change, the real Chen arrived at 7:45. I told him what I'd seen. That's new, he said. Have you ever encountered anything pretending to be me? No, But now you've encountered something pretending to be me. They might try it the other way. What should I do? Exactly what you did. Verify by radio. If the responses don't match reality, treat it as a blue uniform figure. Should we tell Torres? She'll see it in your log. If she thinks it needs a new rule, she'll add one. 2 days later, a new amendment appeared. 36. If you encounter your shift partner during their off-rotation, verify their presence by radio. If they confirm presence, ask them to state a fact only they would know from the most recent shift handoff. If they cannot, treat them per Rule 12. On my 14th rotation, I was working my 4th night when, at 2:51 a.m., every alarm zone went red simultaneously. 22 zones, all red. I grabbed the radio. This is M4402, all alarm zones showing red, requesting immediate guidance. Torres responded within 5 seconds. M44402, do not investigate, remain in control room, lock all interior doors, monitor cameras only. Copy, locking doors now. I locked the break room door, bathroom door, and closet. The server room was already locked. I returned to my station and watched the camera feeds. Zone 1 camera, a figure in blue standing at the perimeter fence. Zone 2 camera, static. Zone 3 camera, the supply depot door was open. Zone 4 camera, multiple figures in blue between the dishes. Zone 5 through 22, various anomalies, shadows moving between frames, doors opening and closing, lights turning on and off. This lasted 4 minutes. At 2:55 a.m., all zones returned to green simultaneously. The cameras showed empty frames. Torres radioed. M4402, status. All zones green. Cameras show no contacts. Control room secure. Maintain position until 3:40 a.m. per standard protocol. If zones go red again, repeat lockdown.
Copy.
They didn't go red again. At 3:40, I unlocked the interior doors and resumed normal operations. In my log, I documented each zone and what I'd observed. Torres never commented on it, but a new rule appeared 3 days later. 37. If all alarm zones simultaneously show red, initiate immediate lockdown. Do not investigate. Do not open any door. Remain in control room until zones return to green or until you receive direct instruction from Torres. On my 16th rotation, Kessler returned. I saw him during my week off at a coffee shop in Albuquerque. He was sitting alone, staring at nothing. Kessler, I said. He looked up slowly. Recognition took a moment. Mercer, how are you? Better. I start back next rotation. What happened? He was quiet for a long time. Then, I thought I saw a pattern, a gap in the rules. I thought I could save time by adjusting my patrol route. Which rule did you break? 3. I walked counterclockwise instead of clockwise. I thought direction didn't matter as long as I counted steps correctly. And I counted 2,173 steps exactly, but I didn't end up at the control room. I ended up at Dish 11's maintenance shed. How is that possible? It's not, but it happened. I was inside the shed. I don't remember going in. The door was closed behind me. There was something else in there with me. What was it? I don't know. I couldn't see it, but I felt it. Cold, heavy, pressing. I tried the door. Locked. I tried the radio. Dead. I tried my flashlight. Dead. I sat in the dark for 3 hours until Torres found me at dawn. How did she know where to look? She said my alarm beacon activated. I didn't know I had an alarm beacon, but she found me, brought me out. I was hypothermic and confused. I spent 2 weeks in a private hospital. They said I had acute stress reaction and mild frostbite. And now you're coming back? I need the money, and I follow the rules now, exactly, every time, no matter what I think I understand. He looked at his coffee. Don't ever assume you understand the pattern, Mercer. That's when it gets you. I returned to work. Kessler resumed his rotation. Chen remained on his rotation. We were a stable team of 3 for the next 4 months. The rules list grew to 53 items by my 20th rotation. On my 22nd rotation during my 5th night at 3:27 a.m., I heard a child crying outside the control room. It was high-pitched, desperate, moving along the exterior wall. A girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old, sobbing words I couldn't make out. No rule explicitly covered this. Rule 6 covered knocking between 2:30 and 3:15. Rule 20 covered the 3:20 to 3:40 window, but neither mentioned crying. I stayed at my station. The crying continued. It circled the building, moving clockwise. At 3:31, it reached the door. "Please," the voice said. "Please let me in. I'm lost. I'm cold." I closed my eyes. I gripped the desk. "Please, I need help." The voice was so young, so afraid. I stood. I walked toward the door. My hand touched the handle. The radio crackled. Torres's voice, M4402, "Do not open that door." I froze. "Step away from the door. Return to your station." I stepped back. My hand shook. "Acknowledge," Torres said. "Acknowledged, returning to station." "Good." The crying stopped immediately. Silence. At 3:40, the window lifted. I opened the curtains. The area outside was empty. In my log, I wrote 0327-0334, child's voice crying and requesting entry, did not open door, ceased at 0334. The next day, a new rule appeared. 38. If you hear a child's voice at any time during your shift, do not respond. Do not open doors. Do not investigate. Remain at your post. The voice is not a child. On my 25th rotation, I'd been at the facility for exactly 1 year. I'd paid off my debt. My savings account was growing. I'd followed every rule, every shift, every time. Torres called me to her office during day shift. It was the first time I'd been inside the main admin building. "You've been here a year," she said. "Your compliance record is perfect. Your logs are the most detailed we've ever had. You've never violated protocol. Thank you. I'm offering you a promotion, shift supervisor. You'd oversee new hires, manage schedules, and assist with protocol development. 20% pay increase. You'd still work nights, but you'd have more autonomy." "What about Chen and Kessler?" "They're excellent guards, but they don't have your combination of reliability and attention to detail. This is a leadership position." I thought about it. More money, more responsibility, but also more exposure to whatever was happening here. "Can I think about it?" "You have 1 week. Let me know before your next rotation." I spent my week off trying to decide. I went hiking. I visited family. I tried to explain the job without explaining anything real. On the last day, I called Torres. "I'll take it." "Good. Report Monday for supervisor training." The training lasted 3 days. Torres showed me the full protocol archive, 54 rules currently active, another 73 deprecated rules from previous iterations, maps of the facility marked with zones, thresholds, and restricted areas I'd never seen. She showed me incident reports, hundreds of them, guards who'd violated protocols. Some were terminated, some were hospitalized, 3 were missing. "Missing?" I asked. "They entered restricted areas during restricted times and didn't return. Search and rescue found nothing. After 72 hours, we declare them lost and close the case." "Where do they go?" "I don't know. Neither does anyone else who works here. That's why the rules exist. They're not arbitrary. They're boundaries. Cross them, and you leave the protected space." She showed me the emergency protocols. Additional rules activated during specific conditions, solar storms, equipment failures, perimeter breaches. "These are classified as Tier 2 protocols," she said. "You'll implement them only when I authorize it. They're more restrictive and more dangerous." "Dangerous how?" "They require you to enter normally restricted areas or perform actions at normally restricted times, but they're necessary to maintain facility security during crisis conditions." She handed me a sealed envelope. "This contains the Tier 3 protocols. Open it only if I'm incapacitated and the facility is in immediate danger. Follow the instructions exactly." "What's in it?" "Evacuation procedures and final safeguards. Hopefully you'll never need them." I started my new role on my 26th rotation. I supervised 2 new hires, Martinez and Okoye. Both were competent. Both asked fewer questions than Paulson. I taught them the rules. I showed them the perimeter path. I walked them through scenarios. What if I see something that's not covered by a rule? Martinez asked. Note it in your log. Don't engage. Don't investigate. Just observe and document. What if someone needs help? No one who actually needs help will be at this facility at night. Anyone you encounter is either authorized staff or something else. If they're staff, they'll have proper credentials and radio protocol. If they don't, treat them per Rule 12. Okoye was quiet but observant. During her first solo shift, she encountered the figure in blue twice and handled both incidents perfectly. Martinez struggled. On his third shift, he tried to adjust his perimeter walk to avoid walking past Dish 11. He thought it was safer. His count came up short, 1,998 steps. He walked it again, 1,912. He radioed me in a panic. I was off shift but monitoring Channel 6 from home per my new responsibilities. Supervisor, this is M775U. I can't get the right count. I've walked 3 times. Every time it's different. What did you change? Silence. Mr. Mfo, what did you change? I avoided the section near Dish 11. I thought it was safer. Return to the control room immediately. Lock yourself in. I'm calling Torres. I called her. She drove out personally, arriving within 90 minutes. She walked the perimeter with Martinez at dawn, clockwise, counting every step. 2,173 exactly. Follow the path as prescribed, she told him. The rules aren't suggestions, they're measurements. The facility is mapped to specific procedures. Deviate and the map changes. Martinez lasted 2 more weeks before requesting a transfer. Torres let him go. We hired someone named Patel to replace him. Patel was former military, accustomed to following orders without explanation. He adapted quickly. On my 30th rotation during a winter storm, Torres activated Tier 2 protocols. She radioed at 11:57 p.m., 3 minutes before my shift started. M4402, this is Torres. We're implementing Tier 2 protocols tonight due to solar storm conditions. Acknowledge. Acknowledged. What are my instructions? You'll receive an addendum to your standard rules. Follow them exactly. This is a high-risk night. Do not deviate under any circumstances. She sent the addendum through the secure terminal. 5 additional rules. Tier 2 protocols. Active during solar storm conditions. T21, at 12:45 a.m., enter the server room. Download the backup log from Terminal 3. The download takes 6 minutes. Do not interrupt it. Do not look at any other terminals. T22, at 2:15 a.m., walk to Dish 11's maintenance shed. The door will be unlocked. Enter, close the door behind you, and wait inside for exactly 4 minutes. Do not turn on lights. Do not use your flashlight. At 2:19, exit and return to the control room. T23, at 3:30 a.m., go to the supply depot. Verify that all salt containers are sealed. If any container is open, seal it immediately. Do not touch the salt directly. T24, at 4:45 a.m., stand at the center of the dish array. Face north, count to 100. Return to the control room. T25, at 6 a.m., check the server room temperature. If it reads below 55 degrees, activate backup heating per manual in server room drawer 2. I read them 3 times. T22 required me to enter Dish 11's shed, the place Kessler had been trapped, the place we were explicitly told never to approach. At 12:45, I entered the server room. 3 terminals, humming servers, cold air. I sat at Terminal 3 and initiated the backup download. The progress bar moved slowly, 1%, 2%. The room was silent except for the server fans. At 3%, Terminal 1's screen flickered. I kept my eyes on Terminal 3. Do not look at other terminals. At 5%, I heard footsteps behind me. Soft, circling. I didn't turn around. At 6 minutes exactly, the download completed. I saved the file, logged out, and exited the server room. The door locked behind me. At 2:15, I walked to dish 11. The maintenance shed was a small metal structure, maybe 10 feet by 10 feet. The door had no external lock. I approached. The door was unlocked as promised. I opened it and stepped inside. Total darkness. I closed the door. The air inside was wrong. Thicker. Colder. I could feel space around me, but the walls felt too far away or too close. The dimensions shifted as I tried to orient myself. I counted seconds. 60, 120, 180, 240. At 230 seconds, something moved in the darkness. Not walking, sliding, heavy. The floor vibrated slightly. I kept counting. 240. At exactly 4 minutes, I opened the door and stepped out. The night air felt warm by comparison. I returned to the control room. At 3:30, I went to the supply depot. 6 large plastic containers of salt lined one wall. 5 were sealed. 1 was open, lid sitting beside it. I sealed it. My hands didn't touch the salt. At 4:45, I walked to the center of the dish array. The dishes loomed around me like giants. I faced north. I counted to 100. The wind howled. The dishes creaked. At 100, I returned to the control room. At 6 a.m., I checked the server room temperature, 54 degrees, below threshold. I found the manual in drawer 2. Instructions for activating backup heating. I followed them precisely. The temperature began to rise. At 8 a.m., Torres arrived. You survived Tier 2. Well done. What was in the shed? Doesn't matter. You followed protocol. That's what counts. Will I have to do that again? Only during solar storms, maybe twice a year. She handed me a bonus check. Hazard pay for Tier 2 operations. On my 35th rotation, I'd been working at the facility for 18 months. I supervised 5 guards now. The rules list had grown to 61 items. I knew the perimeter path so well I could count steps in my sleep. I knew the timing of every anomaly, the patterns of every restricted window. I'd encountered the figure in blue 47 times. I'd heard the child's voice 6 times. I'd watched Dish 11's lights turn on and off 93 times. I'd found and burned 22 handwritten notes. I'd logged over 400 anomalous events. I'd never violated a single rule. One night, during my 3rd perimeter walk at step 1541, I found a new note. But this one wasn't folded. It was weighted with a stone, lying face up. Rule 16 said not to read it. Burn it immediately. But I saw the first line as I bent to pick it up. You're ready now? I picked up the note without reading further and burned it at 4:38 a.m. But those 3 words stayed with me. Ready for what? On my 40th rotation, Torres called me to her office again. We're expanding, she said. The Keller Array is one of 7 facilities we operate. We need experienced supervisors at the others. I'm offering you a position at our facility in West Texas. Same work, 25% more pay, better housing. What about Chen and Kessler? They're staying here. Patel would take your supervisor role. You'd train a new team in Texas. How are the facilities different? Different environments, different anomalies, different rules, but the same principles: observation, documentation, compliance. Do the rules work there? They work everywhere. We've implemented them. That's why we're expanding. What is this place, Torres? What are we actually doing here? She leaned back. We're maintaining boundaries. The dishes are real. The astronomy is real. But this location has properties that make it useful for other purposes. Purposes that require constant monitoring and strict protocol. You don't need to understand the mechanism. You just need to understand that the rules keep everyone safe. Safe from what? From crossing boundaries that should not be crossed. From opening doors that should stay closed. From encountering things that exist in the spaces between what's supposed to be possible. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're going to get. Take the position or don't. You have 1 week. I took my week off and drove to West Texas to visit the new site. It was similar to the Keller Array, smaller, 8 dishes instead of 17, 2 guards instead of 5. But the feel was the same, isolated, cold, wrong in subtle ways. I accepted the position. My last shift at the Keller Array was on a clear night in late spring. Chen worked the opposite rotation. Kessler had transferred to day security. Patel was ready to take over. At midnight, I began my final shift exactly as I'd begun 41 others. I checked door seals. I counted steps. I followed every rule. At 2:36 a.m., I heard knocking. 3 raps, pause, 3 raps, standard. At 3:28, Zone 11 went red, Dish 11 area. The camera showed nothing. Zone returned to green at 3:36. At 5:47, during my third perimeter walk, I encountered the figure in blue at step 1882. It yielded. I continued. 2,173 steps, always exact. At 7:45, Patel arrived for handoff. I briefed him on the night's events. Standard anomalies, no emergencies. Any advice? He asked. Follow the rules. Don't ask why. Don't look for patterns. Don't assume you understand. Just comply. That's it? That's everything. I packed my belongings from Module B, 1 year and 10 months of accumulated items. Books, clothes, photos. I loaded them into my truck. Torres met me at the gate. Good work here, Mercer. You've set a high standard. Thank you. One more thing. She handed me an envelope. Your Tier 3 protocols for the Texas site. Same rules. Don't open unless it's an emergency. I took the envelope. I drove away from the Keller Array at 9:15 a.m. In my rearview mirror, the dishes shrank until they disappeared. The desert swallowed them. I started at the West Texas facility 1 week later. The rules were different. 73 items instead of 61. New anomalies, new restricted windows, new procedures. But the principle was the same. Observe, document, comply. On my first shift, I performed my perimeter walk. The count was 3,406 steps. The path was longer here. At 2:42 a.m., I heard music from the equipment shed. Jazz, piano. It played for 9 minutes. At 4:15 a.m., during a restricted window, something knocked on the break room door. I didn't answer. At 6:30 a.m., I compiled my log and prepared the handoff document for the next shift. The sun rose over different dishes, different buildings, different terrain, but the work was the same. I've been here 3 months now. I supervise 2 guards. We maintain perfect compliance. Last week, I trained a new hire named Foster. Smart, cautious, good at following instructions. On her third shift, she asked me the same question I once asked Torres. What are we protecting? I gave her the same answer I'd been given. We're maintaining boundaries. Follow the rules, and you'll be fine. But what happens if... Don't finish that question. Don't think about what happens if just focus on compliance. She nodded. She's doing well so far. This morning I found a handwritten note on my desk in the control room. I didn't read it. I burned it immediately, but I saw the first 2 words. You're ready? I don't know what that means. I don't want to know. I have 12 hours until my next shift. I'll sleep, eat, prepare my equipment. At midnight exactly, I'll begin my patrol. I'll count steps. I'll monitor cameras. I'll check door seals. I'll follow every rule. And if you ever take a job like this, at a remote facility with strange protocols and rules that don't make sense, you'll do the same. You'll follow the rules exactly as written. You'll never ask why. You'll never assume you understand the pattern. Because the rules are boundaries, and boundaries exist for a reason. The things on the other side are patient. They're watching. They're waiting for the moment you think you're safe, the moment you think you know better. Don't give them that moment. Stay on the path. Count your steps. Lock the doors at the right times. Don't open doors during restricted windows. Don't approach the places you're told to avoid. And if you hear knocking or crying or music or voices calling your name, don't answer. Just follow the rules. They're all that keeps you on the right side of the boundary. Trust me, I've been doing this for 2 years now, and I'm still here. This morning I received a memo from Torres, brief, formal. It outlined protocol changes based on incidents at other facilities, new rules to add to our list. I read them carefully. I laminated them. I distributed them to Foster and the other guard. Tonight at midnight, I'll begin my shift. I'll follow every rule. Just like always. Just like you will, if you're ever assigned to a place like this. Because the alternative is being the reason they write a new rule. And nobody wants that.